Welcome to Local Edition. I'm Tracy Young. In June, leaders from 36 nations from around the world gathered to address the rapid rise in the price of oil, from $70 per barrel in May of 2007 to $140 per barrel. And joining us to talk about the steps that Congress is considering to address an issue that is affecting the world economy is Congressman David Dreier, who represents the 26th District.
Always good to be with you, Tracy.
Thank you, sir. If someone were to ask you how bad this situation is, how would you characterize it?
It's horrible. I'm angry and saddened. Angry because for literally decades we've been trying to put into place policies that will encourage really energy security in the United States, for us to become more independent of those anti-American dictators in Venezuela, Iran, and other places.
Which are the founding members of OPEC, by the way.
Right, exactly. And so we've been trying our doggonedest for decades. We've been trying to work in a bipartisan way, and there's some Democrats who would like to work with us on this, but unfortunately there's some real extremists who have stood in the way of our attempts to responsibly, in an environmentally sound way, explore ANWR in Alaska, not drilling and with big rigs.
Congress passed it, but it was actually President Clinton.
It was vetoed by President
it.
Clinton. It was in 1995. It was vetoed by President Clinton. But there have been times since that time we've tried to pass it, and people have stood in the way. Way offshore. I mean, not off the coast, because at 7 miles you can't see anything beyond the curvature of the Earth. But I mean, 50, 200 miles off the coast using 21st century technology.
Can we do that safely today, that we don't see the kind of spill that we saw
in 1969? I mean, that's the point. 1969. Look how long ago that was. I mean, we're talking decades ago, and we've got 21st century technology. Following Hurricane Katrina, when we saw a horrible disaster in the Gulf of Mexico, not one drop of oil was spilled from all those rigs there because there's safety valves involved. So we need to do that. We need to pursue alternative sources of energy like biodiesel, coal to liquid. Those are the things that we should be going for, and we've got to do what I call an all of the above. And unfortunately, Tracy, the leadership in the Congress has prevented us from bringing up any of these things that would encourage more domestic exploration.
Let's talk about a few things that brought up. One of them was the concept of suing OPEC.
Yeah.
Even if we tried to do that, how long would it take to do so? Under what jurisdiction would we follow through on that?
Great questions. That's why it's going nowhere and it's not going to happen. I mean, suing is not an answer. Suing does not create a single opportunity for us to attain domestic self-sufficiency in any way.
Right.
Then you look at the other things like the so-called use it or lose it. There's 68 million acres out there that the oil companies have access to. They've drilled about half of that, and they have not been able to find anything, and that's why they need to go where the oil is. And we've got, as you and I have discussed in the past, the tremendous shale reserves in the Dakotas, which some say could create 2 trillion barrels. And we need to do all those things, but at the same time, we need to be going for these alternative energy sources, and we need to conserve as well.
Right. Let's get into something else. I heard somebody bring up, we have OPEC, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Companies. I heard somebody bring up the idea of forming OPIC, Organization of Petroleum Importing Companies. Since OPEC controls about 40% of what's on the market on a daily basis, if those of us who got together that were the purchasers and said, look, you need to sell, we need to purchase, maybe we can find a middle ground and bring the price down a little bit?
Well, it's an interesting idea. I think that what we should be doing I think that we should be pursuing as much responsible exploration as possible, as well as pursuing all of these other alternative energy sources.
Because that might be something that can happen quicker. Drilling will take a bit of time.
Well, but you know what? If we were to begin any of those things that I talked about that need to be done, the next day gasoline prices would go down. Why? Because all of this is based on the futures. And if they knew that we were going to actually explore, we would see an immediate reduction in gasoline prices. And 68% of the American people, based on an LA Times Bloomberg poll that just came out, has made it very, very clear that the American people are supportive of our pursuing exploration.
Do you think that speculation is what's driving this up? I mean, I've heard Steve Forbes even say he thinks, you know what, it's a chance. This is a bubble, like the real estate bubble, like the dot-com bubble. We could see oil go down to $50, $60.
A lot of people are predicting that it will burst, and I do think we need to have greater transparency when it comes to these speculators. And we have passed legislation, again, working Democrats and Republicans together on that, but we haven't had the kind of bipartisan leadership that we need to on the issue of exploration here.
We'll be watching for that. Thanks for your time, sir.
Thanks.
For Local Edition, I'm Tracy Young. Now back to CNN Headline News.